hours before, the silos, the last two silos, I guess, they were bound to collapse. There were a lot of journalists filming, and we were standing late at night. Must have been around 11:30.
Yeah, it was around 11 p.m.
11 p.m. and the fire was raging.
I know. And it was like heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking. We're standing right next to each other by chance. Milham Khalaf is next to you. And we're seeing things unfold that we're seeing what I described then as really, I thought, the death of the country. And you were careful to offer some perspective. You were not as bleak. Milham Khalaf, I think, was far more optimistic in that we're going to move on from this, but I saw something ending in front of me. So let's start there. How did you see that night? And we can even go into the very strange ride we shared.
Yes.
So I'll let you bring this to life a bit, because I'd like to hear it from you and how you saw it.
Yeah. So I have been watching the fire for a month and a half when we met. It started July 7, 2022, when the fire started to show outside the silos, even though there was a little fire inside the silos.
Yeah.
But it intensified because it picked up this chimney effect and started going more and more every night. And the first silos also came down.
Yes.
Right.
On
collapsed.
August 4 itself.
And on August 4, coincidentally and surprisingly. And so I have been going down and watching them close because I have this privilege, let's say, quote unquote, to actually force my way into ground zero because they cannot stop me as an MP.
Right.
And so I have been asking the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Public Works to be ready to bring the dust down by spraying water in case the silos fall, and also to put recommendations to people on how to protect themselves in case the silos bring out on their fall a lot of dust.
Yeah.
And this was my main concern when you saw me at 11 p.m. going and watching the silos burning and being so worried that they will fall down and we won't have enough people from the fire brigades and all the, firefighters ready to spray the silos or the dust coming out down. And we were also very, I don't want to surprise, disappointed from the lack of initiatives that the government was able to come up with in order to put out the fire.
Yeah.
Despite our repetitive pleas, Milham and I, to actually ask the government to do something about this and not let people, like you said, you felt like the country was dead, and a lot of people felt the same way too. And this feeling of helplessness was killing me.
Yeah.
And it was killing Milham Khalaf at the same time because he's a man of law. He's a man of finding solution through laws. And I'm a person who needs to find solutions for environmental problems.
Yeah.
And so together we were like, watching this unfolding in front of our eyes and feeling really the sense of helplessness. And this was like burning inside our hearts, inside our minds. And this is what pushed us to say, let's go down, even if it was too dangerous, too risky to actually go and watch them closer. And this is what I asked Milham to do. He said, we have this pass, we have this amnesty. What do they call it? I'm not sure.
Almost, you have access now to this dangerous part of the city.
Exactly.
Which is, I think, for me, it was like you, I was going every day, but on my own, just watching.
Watching from far away.
Watching literally from where I saw you at the highway, sort of where all of us in a way know that scene, which is, it looks like a nightmare.
Right.
And at night it's quite it's apocalyptic almost, with that fire raging.
Yes.
But I'm going to interrupt you because I want to know this moment that you invited me to join you and see your work.
Yes.
Which I found really, I mean, it helped me respect what you guys are doing, what you're going through, because I don't know always what you're actually doing on the ground, and I see it unfolding in my own eyes. And I really admired. You were determined to do what you could. But is it fair to say that you were also unable to do anything at that moment, and you realized it too? It's almost like a sinking in feeling that out of parliament or in parliament, it's the same frustration.
It's not true.
Oh, okay.
To a certain, the way it looks right now, it looks the same. Because we were not able to stop it.
Yeah.
But as an MP, I cannot but try.
Right.
I cannot watch. And I'm not there to watch, or I'm not here in this new role to watch. I have to try. And I have to keep trying inside the parliament and outside the parliament. And so I took my concerns to the parliament and to the Commission of Public Works in particular. And I asked to form an ad hoc committee so that we continue following up on the works, on the cleanups, now that the silos are down, especially the northern part.
Yes.
So we need to clean up the mess. We need the city to live in a cleaner air, although there are so many other sources of air pollution. Let's not start there. But what I wanted to say is that we cannot not try. We have no right not to, but to try and to do the right thing. And so with this ad hoc committee, we are able to follow up. And I'm not saying that we reached where we want to be. Yeah. At least for the first time, we have this committee that is following up on the work of the cabinet to see if we're going to reach a solution. And in fact, this Saturday, we're going to go down with this ad hoc committee to check whether the work is continuing to clean up the rubble and to also empty the southern silos from the grains. So I have not given up. Yeah. I'm not sure where this is going to lead me to, but at least I'm doing the small steps. And I want to remind you that I'm a person of a process.
That's the word that you chose last episode, and it stuck with me because of all the interviews I had with everyone trying to enter parliament. You articulated your process, not just in parliament, but in life. And I like that you see things clearly, and that you see already that even when things are bleak, there's a committee and there's a date, and you will go, you will inspect as much as you can as an MP and try to find solutions. And that's why I have deep admiration for what you're going through. But I don't want to be too bleak, but I think I have to, because I see that as outstanding effort, and I also see a process that's denied. And I think a committee, it almost seems like, yes, that's the right step forward, and an assumption that whether it was that night watching the last hours of the 2 northern silos fall, or for that matter, the immense pollution. I live in Maram Khayal. I know I mean, we all know that stench. That's a combination of many things now. But the dust, the debris, I can imagine that this wreckage looks the same for months on end. And I don't think much will be done. That's irrespective of an investigation. This is just collateral damage now. So could you offer a cynic, let's say, or a skeptic? Maybe cynicism is not the healthiest trait, but let's say a deep skeptic. Could you walk me through how you see your role in trying to change that? So whether it's a committee meeting on Saturday or whether it's your role in parliament. Because what I see is someone shackled by things bigger than their control. And I want you to persuade me otherwise.
I don't want to think about the big picture. I think I have a problem in front of me.
Yeah.
And the problem is very, very simple. There are debris, there is fire underneath, and there is mold, there is grain that is cooking, and this is posing a risk to the city.
Yeah.
And it's posing a risk to the other part of the silos, the southern part.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm just going to confine it into this particular problem. And I will tackle this problem. And I will ask the Minister of Environment, the Minister of Public Works, and whatever entity that has responsibility to clear up this mess, I'm just going to go off after them day after day until this problem is solved. I have not given up since 7/7/2022, ever since the fire started to become visible to people. This is what I'm focusing on.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's very limited in space and time.
You're choosing all the right words to show anyone that there's still a job at stake, and
Yes.
this is why you're in Parliament. I think it's what you should be saying, actually. It would be odd if you went down the skeptical road with me. So I appreciate that you still hold on to this process. But I do see something beyond repair. And, we can maybe dance around this subject. Let's go from environmental catastrophe to even the things that have happened since May. And that is 4 months. Tar is history.
Not yet.
Okay, we need to. Okay, let me. I'll. Good. That's well said. You're right. Not yet. Almost. But you're right. Not yet. Tar is in a corner.
Okay.
The anticipation for international involvement, I think, has been squashed. August 4 commemoration that came and went, where we saw parts of it's almost like Hollywood could not come up with this. The port is collapsed, the silos are collapsing on the anniversary, but all the demands that began 2 years ago have not been fulfilled.
Yeah.
A situation where the country is anarchic, security is now a major problem, crime, you have theft, and you also have, I think, a battered society. The lira is hovering at 39,000. You represent hope, not just change, but hope, and really feels hopeless. How do you see things moving forward? What I see is bank heists increasing, crime increasing, perhaps paralysis in Baabda, or for that matter, maybe a settlement that's not good for the country. And I see the port rotting, and I see the city sort of post-mortem. So wake me out of that. Tell me how you see things moving forward, and how your role is maybe part of that story, and if you're able to maybe steer things in a better direction, given how bad things are.
I'm not going to take you out of this.
Okay.
I'm going to stay in it.
Yeah.
Because all you described is very, very true. And this is reality. And if I describe it in any other way, I will be lying to myself. This is reality. The reality is we have a completely collapsed system.
Yeah.
And a completely collapsed government. And the worst of it all is that people have not risen up to the occasion to help the country. And when I say people in power.
Right. Yeah.
They're still thinking about what's in it for me and how can I be opposing the other. And with that, I hope they realize that there is nothing in it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, when you say what's in it for me, you're assuming that there is something in this government that you can take for yourself.
Yeah.
There's nothing anymore. People are not coming to their jobs, that they're not attending their jobs or their duties. We have been on judiciary strike for almost a month and some.
Yeah. The judges that have gone home and
Right. I mean, everything has collapsed, and
Yeah.
that's absolute. It's an absolute catastrophe, no doubt and no question about it. Okay, so you wake up every day and you say, okay, where do I start? Which battle I have to choose today?
Yeah. Tar bitar. Let's go down the first one.
Absolutely.
How do you start your day with that issue? Because you're right.
I have been, yes.
You're right. He's not done yet.
No.
But he's almost done. Very close.
I don't want to believe this because I believe that there is a team of lawyers who are passionate, smart, dedicated, and very, very good believer of the cause. And they have been fighting this corrupt decision tooth and nail ever since it came out. I know them one by one. I know how hard they're working, and I know how many letters they have written back and how many counter measures they have taken to stop what this Minister of Justice has done. And this is showing a little bit of positive change, because they have not been able to appoint this parallel judge yet.
That's
and
true.
I'm saying, it's all because of so many efforts and so many initiatives or so many interpretation of the law and the counter argument that they are coming up with and acting on them and sending them to the right people, entities, in order to stop what they have decided on. Legally.
Let's say that's true. Actually, that is true. Everything you just outlined is fact. Yet the investigation stalled, almost a year ago?
Oh, yes.
Or we're approaching a year.
I know. And right before what the Minister of Justice did, we were okay because we were hoping that the investigation will pick up again or will return.
Yeah.
Now we have to deal with another beast. So what I'm trying to say, it's a constant battle with evil. Constant.
So let's go. I need to push as far as I can because I need to maybe have a better. My compass is off, so maybe you can help me come back and see something. I see his investigation as dead.
Yeah.
I see his position as potentially lingering but paralyzed. I see no investigation. I see no international involvement too. And the reasons for that is there's no state that will ever go down that road right now. Opening up the state as it exists to an international probe. I just don't see that ever happening. So I'm going to flip it. 17 years ago, something very odd happened. The Lebanese state requested international assistance. The special tribunal. That's a very rare occasion in Lebanese history. Actually, it's the only occasion where the state said, we cannot handle this. That's post-elections, a majority government, and it happens. And it happens even when the future governments in Lebanon paralyze that process. Here, it continues on abroad. Yeah. A very watered down very disappointing process, yes, it does yield a verdict at the end. I can't imagine this happening ever again. No local investigation, no international probe, no Lebanese government that will ever want that. With or without a new president, new prime minister, I just don't see that happening. And that's why I'm stuck in this paralysis myself. So you're an MP and you're battling that terrain. It's such a huge battle.
I know.
How do you confront this other than the very, very small steps that maybe sometimes are afforded? I don't know. I'm being hard, but I need to know what... Is it just literally battling until it all collapses? Is that...
I think it's not one thing, one isolated problem, although it's one of the major ones that has ended with the collapse of the state, basically.
Yeah.
August 4 was a catalyst for the complete collapse of the state.
Yeah.
But still, the corruption was there before.
Right.
And the same warlords are still in power. And they are the ones that are who are manipulating everything. So we have to fight this whole system.
Yeah.
We cannot fight them isolated. Sometimes we say we have to fight them in isolated, incidents or problems. And sometimes it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. What I'm trying to say is that we 13, we sleep on something, we wake up on another problem. The only thing we know is that we have to fight the system. We cannot accept corruption.
I see familiarity, and I'm going to go down this road with you. First example, line 29. It doesn't make sense to me. It could be the right line, it could be the wrong line. Line 23 is what the Lebanese government sent 11 years ago. Line 23 could be wrong. Line 23 may be completely off. But going and doing this kind of battle now, I think it adds to the paralysis rather than doing the right thing, which is finalizing this problem once and for all. And I sensed that this was trying to show credentials and trying to stand for sovereignty, but in a way that was better fit for a group that would maybe not want that deal anytime soon. And I didn't see this as the right course, although it was adamantly championed by the 13. So maybe I'm wrong. Line 29 could be the right line, but it's just a battle that should have been fought long ago. And I don't know why it's being fought today. So could you explain to me how you saw this very, very outstanding problem that is now maybe going to actually end in the coming days, maybe. But why line 29 was so important to the new bloc, and why not just go with what the Lebanese state sent 11 years ago?
I don't think there was a consensus of what they wanted, because everyone had a different story when we visited them. So we didn't ask them before we made our research.
Right.
And our research says that our rights as Lebanese starts with line 29. So the books, the army, the UK company, when they came to draw the lines, to draw the borders of Lebanon versus occupied Palestine, they said that, technically speaking, our line is 29. And if we go back and start the negotiation with line 23, we're giving up 1,430 kilometers squared from our own, maritime borders.
Yeah.
So in this case, what do? You say, okay, let go of 1,430 kilometers squared, and let's go with whatever they tell us to do. So
it was more that what was already discussed with Cyprus and the UN, was it 2010, I think, or 2011?
Yes, they started very early on.
Yeah.
And they themselves admitted that this was a mistake.
Okay, so I'm going to ask it in a better way. Line 23 is literally just a line. It's not, this is not...
they're all hypothetical lines.
Exactly, so it's not, the 11th commandment was line 29.
Right.
Yeah.
Even line 29 is hypothetical.
Exactly. It's hypothetical.
But it's technically where we should draw the line to separate our border from, to separate our belonging and our rights from other people's rights or other countries' rights.
Okay, so tell me where I'm getting it wrong, because I'm open to learning why I see this maybe potentially incorrectly. Line 23 was what was submitted over a decade ago, and this involves Lebanon and Cyprus. That's sort of the Lebanese Cypriot demarcation, delineation line, maritime boundary line. And line 23 was already something that we were negotiating, and the Hof line was one of those deals that didn't work out. The Hof line of 2012, I think. I don't remember exactly. So Lebanon could well deserve more than the Hof line. And line 23 was our best estimate. In the last 11 years, south of the border, that's where things have already started.
Yes.
Right. So going to line 29, for me, I see that as Shab'a farms, really. That there will never be a line that both sides can agree to. That it's almost, it's guaranteeing, not necessarily conflict. Doesn't have to mean conflict, just means that this will never be solved. This is the absolute
maximum that you can ask for.
Post what we already insisted what was ours. So it's
no, but even line 23, if you take line 23, you're losing Kana.
Right, yes.
And that's not fair. I mean, not only that you're losing a big portion of your own maritime land, maritime
it cuts through,
property.
Right?
Exactly. It cuts through Kana, which means you're giving up Karish.
Yes.
That is all given up to the other country.
Yeah.
But you're also giving up part of Kana, or the major part of Kana. So what we're trying to say, since technically and theoretically speaking, we can start our negotiation with line 29 so that we get all Kana, and we can probably with this negotiation give up Karesh so that they can take it. Then you have better leverage of starting the negotiation with a hard line that has been approved by a UK company and by the Lebanese army. So you don't start weak, you start very strong. And this was our main argument.
Knowing that this would never work.
No, knowing that it will work, because had they sent to the UN an amendment to the borders, and they have the right to do so, and it was done before, then we could have started the negotiation with line 29.
Wouldn't that overlap with what was already designated as disputed territory, and the Israelis had already started drilling? That this would bring us into conflict, potential conflict.
Do you know how far the negotiation is right now?
Actually, I don't know, but it seems like something is happening. I don't know, though.
That's the problem, is that they do all these negotiations.
Right.
They don't inform anyone.
Yeah.
So we don't know what the negotiations are going for.
Yeah. And they've been talking about an S or some odd shaped.
But it's all here and say, right?
Yeah.
Nothing from the local government, from the Lebanese government, has clarified we don't have any clarity
Yeah.
of where we stand in the negotiation.
I just didn't know why it was the desire to start over from what was already worked through, even if it was wrong. Line 23, it seemed like it was just an unnecessary reboot at a time where this would be, it's an absolute position that would not get to a compromise. It's more holding your ground as long as you can. And that reminded me of Shaba. That it's
No, Ronnie.
No.
I think what we were trying to say, because there was like threats of war and everything
Yes.
if Israel starts digging, right?
Yeah.
And they were saying that Karesh cannot be only for the Israelis.
Exactly,
yes.
yeah.
So we're saying, okay, you want to negotiate? Don't go to war. Amend the decree that you sent to the UN. I think it was 644, or I'm not. I forgot the number.
Yeah.
But that's what we were saying. Don't go to war. Just start the negotiation. Do the amendment of the decree. And if you are far in the negotiation, tell us.
So that was the problem, really, is the communication at the end. It's just, like you said, it's all being done secretly. Yeah, I see that's fair. That's fair. So they've not been opening up to their current negotiations.
Well, everyone said, the president said, we are stuck with line 23, like you're saying. And the other two, the President Berri and the Speaker of the House and the head of the cabinet, they were saying different things. They were saying negotiations are happening beyond, and like you're saying, in different lines around line 23. And the Speaker of the House was saying, I don't want to hold any line. I don't want to negotiate with lines. I want to negotiate probably with something else. He refused the theory of the lines anyway.
I see.
So everyone was coming up with a different theory.
Should there be an agreement made? I have no idea. It's actually...
I have no idea either.
No clue. But it feels like something is happening in New York. Let's say an agreement is made, and it somehow leans more to a certain line. Not line 29. Let's just say line 23 is the default line, and it's somewhere there. Would you still be convinced that the position was correct? That you stuck to what you thought, or not you, but what the change bloc considered to be rightfully ours, even when it may go in another direction? I appreciate the determination, because it was not a very easy sell, I think, to a lot of people. Yet no one wavered from it in the change bloc. It stayed line 29 up until now. Because
we believe that this is our beginning, that this is our starting point in the negotiation. Yeah. That's very important to Lebanon. Those are our rights.
Yeah.
We're fighting for our rights.
Mm-hmm. I can't contest that. I think it's more of just, I didn't know if it was too late to do that.
I wish I knew.
Yeah.
I wish I knew.
I think that's where the dispute is, really. It's just time. It's that 12 years later, this may have not been possible. Despite the procedure to do an amendment, it just seems like it's late. While line 29 could be the right line. Could be. But it's 12 years removed from where this all started. And other countries have moved on. That's what I sensed was paralysis, really.
But Shaba is still in negotiation, and it's been over 12 years, I think.
It's been 22 years, right?
Exactly.
That's my point.
No,
exactly.
I'm saying if we do it right, sometimes, this time it just happened that the negotiation is accelerated.
Right. That's fair. That's
so
fair.
12 years might not seem too long in stalled negotiation that could go forever.
That's fair.
What happened this time is that Europe is so in need of gas. And this has accelerated the negotiation and nothing else.
And maybe also that one party right now wants a victory before they're out.
Whatever.
Maybe.
So what we're saying is that the regional and the international environment has been in favor of moving the negotiation forward.
Right.
Otherwise, 12 years would not have been late for us to claim our rights in line 29.
You have an expert in your group, Taqaddom, Lori Haytayan. She does this for a living. I am in no position to challenge her diligent research. I know she's married to line 29, more than Zaven. I think I can get away with saying that. They're at the same line. They're both line 29.
I don't want to say anything about that.
And I know she reminds us every morning on Twitter of line 29. She's an expert in the field. I try to understand her position as much as I can, and it's nice to hear you explaining it from almost like a new MP, but also maybe a slightly wider perspective. That I think you're absolutely right. These are not. Time is on no one's side.
Yeah,
that's really the story, and I think
it just happened this time that negotiations moved, right?
Yeah, that's fair. I thought something good happened 2-3 days ago. Felt like political enemies, or whatever they're called, confrontation was put one step behind, and a road was forged ahead. Not necessarily that any name was suggested, or even for that matter, it may be too soon. But there were whispers of maybe coming to terms with how the Lebanese forces seized Baabda. And that to me was striking, because it shows how maybe they have to compromise, but also that you're not withering, or you're not leaving principles behind, but you're understanding that you do need numbers at the end of the day, and numbers matter, and you can talk to established parties. That to me is political maturity from both sides. I'm not going to try to defend the Lebanese forces here, or for that matter try to massage the 13, but it just showed that there was something good that happened. There's a process of picking a name. I think that's good. Now, you were there, and we both sort of described how it's like inside. It's true. It's intimidating. It's an intimidating place. But you were in the room. Is that a fair characterization of where things are with that group? And do you see things moving the right way in terms of narrowing down a name that would not be either a settlement name where a paralyzed president emerges, or for that matter, a name that we definitely don't want in Baabda, and that could be a name that still has a chance to enter?
This is the first time I talk about the initiative. I'm not the usual talker on TV.
Let's get Mark Aoun. No, I'm joking. Wadah, call him.
Exactly. So I want to talk about the presidential...
Paula, stay out. No, I'm joking.
So I want to talk about the presidential election.
Yeah.
Or the presidential initiative first, that the Bloc 13 has come up with. I think it has shown, like you said, a high maturity. Political maturity or national maturity, I don't know, but it is a mature move. Why? Because we put the interest of the country in front of everything else.
Yeah.
It's not easy for Firas Hamdan to sit face to face with the people who think we're, not responsible, but we're I don't know what to say, we're somehow...
Associated, maybe.
Associated, exactly.
Yeah.
With the shot he got during the October 17 revolution.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy for Cynthia to sit also with the party. She believed at one time that it was a savior for the country. And so this is great maturity.
Cynthia Zeres, you're sitting with, I'm assuming you mean Gibran Bessir.
Yes.
But she got up and she walked out.
It wasn't easy for her.
Yeah, okay. Right.
That's what I'm saying.
I see. I
said it's not easy to see this.
Yes.
And they knew where they were going. And they were willing, both of them, to put all their emotions aside.
Right. Yeah.
And work for this initiative.
Yes.
And this move to actually, help the country choose a president that is along, the same, that has the characteristics that we have envisioned and we have laid down.
Yeah.
So this in and of itself, a great, great victory for us, I believe.
Yes.
The initiative itself, how we defined it, how we characterized the presidency, and I don't want to call it a president because it's not about a person, it's about the presidency. It's about Lebanon.
Yes.
It's about who we want and how we want to save this country. And that deserves to put all our differences on the side and go talk to everyone.
Did you feel the same kind of common space when you met with the Free Patriotic Movement compared to the Lebanese Forces meeting? Or was it easier to have that kind of discussion with the Lebanese Forces? Because I felt that there was some positivity over the weekend that wasn't felt earlier. And I know this is not just one meeting. This is an ongoing process.
I don't want to think about it this way. I think every single group or political party has to think has to put the benefit of the country in front of their political ideology.
Yeah.
And it's a national duty and it's a national responsibility. So for me, they don't have credit for doing this. It's their responsibility and their national duty to do it the same way it is for me.
Yeah. So the standards are the same in every single meeting.
And it has to be.
Yeah.
And it has to be.
Yeah.
If I'm putting all my differences aside and I'm putting the benefit of my country first, I expect everyone to do the same.
I think it's striking that you're able, not you, the new MPs are able to hold their ground in these meetings for the most part, and they come out looking mature. I think this is a very quick learning curve, and I was really impressed over the weekend with just the way the words were, the way the process was being outlined, and it's almost you have to cherry pick and sometimes read between the lines, but it showed that there is a process that the 13 are adhering to, and they want other parties to respect that.
Yes.
And I think that's good.
I mean, this is for the first time.
Yeah.
We're breaking the walls between all the parties that have reigned the country for a long time.
Yeah.
And the rhetoric, the narrative has been, I don't talk to you, you don't talk to me. And we send letters or messages through the media.
Yeah.
What is best to do is to go talk to them and say, okay, listen, we are in a critical moment and we want you to be with us and work with us so that we can save this country.
Does that translate?
I think this is the most powerful act an MP can do for the country in those dire circumstances.
That's well said, actually. That's one of those few positive steps happening, I think, right now, is how everyone is approaching Baabda, but really how the 13 are approaching Baabda. Is it fair to say, though, that there's a leaning towards a list of names that are accessible? Because it's great to imagine a fresh new face in Baabda, and then I can see the inclination to Gibran Bassil or Sleiman Frangi as overwhelming, really, and that it may well end up being one of those two names no matter what happens. Is there a commitment to maybe making sure certain names don't make it? Or is it more that you have names that you want to see enter Baabda and you're trying to get other parties to maybe subscribe to them? Because I don't know how
we have a national goal.
Yeah.
We have a country, and we're here to save this country. we have the characteristics of the person we think can be or is able, with a team, of course, because I don't believe in one person.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why I'm saying we need to save the presidency and the country and not a president. So this person with the characteristics that we have defined will be our choice. For me, I have nothing to lose. I have a lot to gain if I work for this person or for this team or for this cause. And that's the only thing I will do. Me, and I'm speaking on behalf of the 13 as well, who when we meet have the same goal, is to save the country and not to be, not to make alliances. We need to make sure that we have and we believe in the choice that we're making.
Is there a firm position on no settlement president? Meaning that a Hassan Diab-like figure that enters Baabda, cherry-picked from civil society, but really doesn't represent civil society and doesn't touch any of the bigger problems. Is there an adamancy that this should not happen to Baabda? And is that maybe a shared goal?
It has not. It shouldn't happen to Baabda. It shouldn't.
Yeah.
And we will fight. We will fight for the good presidency team.
This fight is overwhelming.
We have to. We have to.
Yeah.
And believe me, and when we say this, it's a choice. It's a deliberate choice that we're making.
Yeah.
No compromises. Negotiations, yes, but compromises, no.
I don't want to see a civil society name burned in Baabda. And it could be a good person that is shackled and then ends up paralyzed.
That's why we need a team.
Yeah, that's well said. Let me go into slightly more difficult terrain.
More?
Yeah, I mean, there's two more things I have in mind, but we'll end it in comfort food. I'm torn when I see people I know from the protest movement, whether it's a plastic or real gun, I don't care at this point, that they're on TV holding up a bank, but more importantly, trying to recover their money. And I don't know how to describe this kind of incident. For me, I see the threat of innocent deaths, but I also see that people are trying to reclaim what was stolen. And then I also see bank tellers and bank managers frightened, and they're not to blame. It's not that the bank teller is the target. So it's almost like everyone is innocent, yet the real threat for this turning into something dangerous is there.
Yes.
So how do you sort of try to mitigate this? I mean, the banks are closed. Whether it's reopening on Thursday or next week, there's a sense of fear. Add to that, the money is not there. And then I think heists are going to continue. Maybe that's not even the right word, because bank heist sounds like it's a crime, but it's not really that. It's just anarchy. How do you deal with this and trying to maybe find some solution to this? Because what I see is just anarchy spreading.
I think the solution has to come from the banks and the central bank. The banks have not accepted to bear any loss.
Yeah.
And they are, with the central bank, still continuing probably to make some money. Because
Really?
they're playing with the dollar and the pegging of the lira. And so we don't know whether they're making any profit. And so the central bank and the banks have to accept some losses, and the losses cannot be at the expense of the depositors' money. So we have to redesign the banking system altogether, and we have to give the depositors their money. That's their rights. They were not involved in the strategies and in the design of all these loans and all of this money strategy. that they made with the central bank and the government.
But in your best estimate, do you think that, I mean, this path forward, come Monday, I don't think that's going to happen, although it should happen.
Yeah.
And as an MP, what is your maneuvering space? Are you able to legislate anything right now that would even begin to push this forward? Or is it more of a things are going to have to get worse for the banks to begin to feel that they have some responsibility?
Coming Monday, I don't think we can do much, right?
Yeah.
Things are going to get really bad.
Yeah, so you feel this too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But do I blame people? Do I feel for the employees, the bank employees? Yes. Do I blame people? No.
Yeah, that's the feeling that no one is to blame.
Except the bank owners and BDL.
Right. And they're not there in those moments where people are very emotional.
Right.
And I am really afraid that a bystander is going to pay a price in this kind of climate.
I totally agree.
I think we're very lucky that it hasn't happened yet.
I hope it doesn't.
I hope so. The last thing I'll bother you with, but I'll give you the floor at the end. I have to talk about this with you, even though I don't want to. The reason I have to is because every single time so I've been criticized for being too sweet and maybe too kind and giving the benefit of the doubt. I think these are all good qualities, but sometimes when things are taken out of context, or sometimes when somebody's put on the spot, there are things that are taken and then they're shared, and then suddenly you're on the news. So
trending.
You're trending. I'm going to be very careful because I know it's not fair to just say, what the hell were you thinking? But I think it's a valid question. So let me phrase it better. Do you consider the Madrase moment as a slip up in terms of language? Do you think that the moment was a bit unfair and that you were trying to say something, but it's live TV and you're not given the opportunity to really explain what you're saying, and you're trying to just be concise, and maybe it's not exactly what you meant, but that's how people define it? Or do you really believe that that was the right word choice at that moment? Because I'm going to suggest something. I think you just meant it in terms of an innocent remark, and I think you do use the word process regularly. I think you were just trying to be honest that there is a process. Maybe it's not to your liking, but it's there. It may be a inefficient or even a violent process sometimes. But that's the process that you're entering, and you may not wish for it to be there, but you're experiencing it. That's my best definition of what happened. But you were there. You tell me.
First of all, I think this mistake is going to go with me to the grave. And if you allow me, I'm going to say a story. There is a scientist, an ecologist, who was working in Africa. And at the time, they knew very little about ecology and the whole ecosystem. So they wanted to protect the forest from elephants. And they decided to kill 40,000 elephants. He's one of the very well-known ecologists. And he said ever since they killed those elephants, because there was few animals walking on the ground, the soil was never turned, and the whole ecosystem died.
Right.
And he admitted this mistake on stage, saying that this mistake is gonna go with me to the grave.
I mean, that's a lovely... I feel bad for this guy on stage, and I feel very bad that you got hammered a little too much for this.
Okay, so having said that...
Yes.
And listening to some of, the constituents that I love and I met over, the past few months, and since I said this, I feel so bad that I hurt so many people. Because one woman I will never forget, she told me, I cried all night when I heard you. Right? And this really is painful. To hear people saying this to me, it's very painful. All right? And for this, I apologize so many times on TV, on radio, on podcasts and everything. And I do it, and I say it from the bottom of my heart, because I never meant to hurt anyone.
Let me give you the floor
Let me get to the sentence now.
Yes.
Again, I'm a person of a process.
Yeah.
And this is extremely important because the process is extremely important to me. That means every step along the way of any path I take is a valuable step. I don't think about the end result. I think about how I'm going to get to the end results. Maybe I have used the wrong word, that is madrase.
Yeah.
But what I meant is that this person has taken power of the parliament for 40 years. We have to know how he did it so that we understand how to stop it. Not stop him, because he's not going to run again, but how to stop this from happening again. Or stop him. Really, the process is extremely important. And we have to learn and understand every step along the way, or every single step. That's what I mean. In order for us to face this. How could you face it if you don't understand it?
Yeah. I think I understood it as you were trying to show how a very perverted system functions, and something that you wanted to be taken care of was taken care of. The ashtrays in Parliament. It was taken care of in a way that almost like a Godfather-esque moment where somebody stands up and says, do it, and they do it. And that may not be a good, healthy process, but it is a process. And I understood you when you said madrase in that, because I fortunately spent an hour with you before, knowing and getting to know you better and what you're actually, what you're trying to do. But yeah, that word really shook people to their core, and I think it was a word that many people, I think, were surprised by. But I'm glad that you were able to explain it, because I think it won't stay with you to your grave. No. I think actually what is going to stay to your grave and all of our graves is that people are battling so hard and finding very little room for success, but they're still trying. When they're out of Parliament and in Parliament, I think the effort is going to go with all of us to our grave. I don't think that word will stick with you. And thankfully for social media, a lot of things have happened since, and people move on. And I think just sometimes certain words at certain times on certain stations about certain characters. You're not Harakat Amal, you're not Nabih Birri, you're a change MP with Taqaddom, and you campaigned heavily against a system you want to fix. So,
but I want to see how I can fix it, and I want to understand it.
What would the word been if you could rephrase it instead of madrasa? What would the word have been?
I don't know. Madrase probably has a positive connotation.
Yeah, I think that's where it comes from.
But you know what? Again, this came because in the US, when you go to public lectures that happen very often, they usually tell you about a lot of stories that happen in the country, and most of these stories are not the best stories.
Right.
So they tell you sometimes about crime, about corruption, about investigation. You know, when I talk about public lectures, they always pick those intriguing, very difficult situations that they want to share with the public. And this is where the Madrase came from. Is that I used to attend those public lectures a lot. And I used to learn a lot about, you know, different cases in the country, different criminal cases, corrupt cases, and all of that.
Yeah. And I think the lead-in question was unfair as well. There was an expectation of a positive response, and you ended up maybe by default choosing the word that fit the question best, but it wasn't exactly, I think, the kind of process you had in mind. And it just kind of became a soundbite and shared endlessly on social media. But no, thank you for letting me ask this, because I think it would have been odd for me not to ask, but I wanted to hear it the way you described it, and I think that's the right answer. So Najat, you, a few weeks ago, you were, 2 months ago, you were sitting in the front row of a seminar on impunity hosted by Monica Borgman and the Luqman Slim Foundation. There were 5 of us talking, and it was great to see you there. You were the only MP who showed up to discuss issues of impunity, political violence, the port blast and all that it encompasses, and you were right in the middle of the audience, and that was a great thing. It was good to see you there. I think I've benefited from meeting you on several occasions. Now I think more as a friend, but as a professional friend, if you will, because all of our conversations revolve around how to describe and how to discuss this very difficult subject. So I'm going to give you the floor here. You wanted to share some stories, and maybe you've now been in Parliament for almost 4 months. Maybe there's some lessons learned, or maybe there's some surprises. Anything that you can share with an audience that heavily supported you entering Parliament, and your own reflections 4 months in. And I think, in my humble estimation, the story of political violence is what brought you in. The port blast.
Absolutely.
And that's the one thing none of us have answers for. So, what can you say in that climate? Trying to do the right thing, battle against the system. Political violence is a mainstay of where we are now. And you're an MP.
I want to talk about this incident in particular. And I think I was there and I listened to the panel. And the panel was diverse and was very, very interesting and enlightening, actually. But at the same time, there was this ending that was very open. It's like, you know, it's like the movie that Nadine Labaki did, Now What?
Yes. Yeah, the mountain villagers that dance until they all just, finally.
No, I mean, when they switched religion.
Yes, right.
Yeah. And they were going to bury, bury.
من هون لوين؟ هلا لوين؟
هلا لوين, something
لوين.
Yeah. And so, after like you were 6 or 7 on the stage.
Must have been something like that, yeah.
Yes. And talking, you know, about your own perspectives and some with a legal agenda with Nizar Saghiri also talking about their efforts, Human Rights Watch, talking about also how much they were doing in order for them to get some evidence and some ways to push forward the justice and the pursuit of justice. And also there was Najat Rushdi, there was Monica, Luqman Slim's wife, and all of that. And it's so painful. It's a lot of pain on this panel and in the audience.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, first, it just took too long because they were late in starting. And also the panels, because there were so many, they took too long. I had another commitment. I know that the audience, since I was the only MP, wanted to ask me questions to see how can MPs help in this.
Yeah.
I did not wait to receive the questions. But I can tell them that I have not saved any moment to push the investigation in the right direction. I have been in contact, like I said, with a group of bright lawyers, head by Shikri Haddad and Milham Khalaf. There are also petitions for the Human Rights Watch that I, pushed and I contributed to also to explain the situation to other MPs.
Yes.
And convince them that we really need to push this agenda forward. Have met with several ambassadors, international and especially European ambassadors, to ask them and also request that the EU resolution is renewed, the EU Council resolution for demanding justice for the port and the victims of the Beirut blast be served. This was also pushed and renewed. I have met with several people, victims of the Beirut blast, and listened to their stories, and also, promised that I will continue doing my best in order for us to serve justice. And lately, I have been in close contact with Milham and Shikri to see how I can support them, because I really believe that we have the best team we could ever have if only politics can be pushed aside for these people to continue doing what they're doing.
Is it fair to say that the Lebanese state still has to request assistance for something to actually materialize? Or do you still think that there is a way forward for Tariq Bitar to go after so many people in this country that want him gone? I don't know. Everything you're saying is true.
We go back to the heart of the problem. We need a country without corruption. Because it's not about competency and of the local lawyers.
Exactly. Yes.
We have the brightest and the most dedicated people I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Right? And I know how hard they work. And they work 14 to 15 hours a day. And I know. And I see them so dedicated to this cause. They don't stop. They really never stopped. But they keep, instead of looking for justice, they are battling the political system. They keep stopping the political interference in this file. So our problem and our fight is with the political system and not with the investigation.
Exactly, but I think, see, I wake up on the weekends, early Saturday morning or Sunday morning, I'm on Twitter, and I see you working your ass off. You're either doing some cleanup, you're attending a political event, I see you sometimes in the mountains, I see you on the coast, and you're working so hard. You're absolutely right. There are so many talented, there are enough experts in this country to fix Lebanon.
That's true.
Yeah, and there's talented lawyers, there's capable judges. Tariq Bitar is a decent man, unable to do his job. All of that, I think, is maybe, that can happen, and at the same time, a generation can go by where there's no investigation.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, maybe we can wrap it up with this kind of back and forth. Is there any benefit to maybe sometimes communicating the limitations? Meaning that you're going to battle as hard as you can, but there are certain walls that you can't pass.
I have no choice. This is a path that I chose to do.
But is there
And to walk.
any way to identify the walls that you hit?
There are walls every single second. There are walls. And I wake up waiting for the challenges that I'm going to face on daily basis. It's not easy, Ronnie. It's very, very difficult. And sometimes I feel like, I need the energy to stretch my patience, my wisdom, my mind, everything even further. I know it's very hard. I knew it's going to be very hard because we're not battling a regular system. I'm not an MP in a stable country.
No, that's true.
We're fighting a big mafia, right? And we're putting our lives on the line because they don't care. I mean, if I'm going to expose any of their wrongdoings, right? They will kill me. They don't care.
The militia will kill you. The mafia won't. That's the thing.
Whatever.
But that's...
they will not stop. I'm saying if I ever become a threat to their own benefits and their own people, they will kill me.
Yes.
And I know this.
Yeah.
What are the choices that I have? What are the choices that I have? I don't have too many choices. There is one choice I have, is to do what I believe is the right thing for my country. And this is a choice I made deliberately.
You're one of the most honest people I've interviewed or had the experience to know. When I started this podcast 4 years ago. You're very concise. You're at times blunt in the right way, not in the bad way. And I believe in your mission. And actually, I'm very fortunate that I get to meet one of the most sincere MPs that entered Parliament in the worst time in our modern history. At times, I hear everyone in this 13 block saying the right things, and maybe sometimes I wish I could know from your side and your team's side a little more of what exactly is destroying the country the way you see it from within. And I wish there was a little more maybe care to saying that August 4 and this investigation is not happening because there's one group in this country that doesn't want it to happen, period. Rather than we have all the right people, we have all the right team ready, and we know what needs to be done, but there's no way to get it done. I think some effort to focus in on this group.
I think the difference between you and me is that you think that there is only one group.
Tariq Bitard was threatened by one group, and that's why this whole thing is stalled. All the mafioso types that you know now, unfortunately, some of them you probably have to deal with, are not the reason why this investigation died. It's a group that killed this investigation.
It's not one group.
One group threatened him.
That's it. But now the other group stopped him.
Exactly. That's well said. The collateral is part of the problem too. But the core, I think, is what's preventing the best of us from moving forward. And maybe we can endlessly debate that until we all perish. But I admire the road that you're. I just admire your path. You're one of the good ones, and I think whether this country dies or not, I think at least sincere people tried. Is there anything you want to end it with? Because I usually just wrap it up on a storytelling note, but I don't know if that's the right way to end this. I'd like to give you just anything you'd like to say about your life right now.
What breaks my heart the most now, in addition to corruption, of course, is the environmental degradation that I see in the country. And this is much worse than we have seen before during the Civil War. And I want to explain why.
Yeah.
With the lack of electricity, there is a lack of water, because water is driven by electricity. And with the lack of electricity, there is a lack of sewage treatment.
Yeah.
And so all our mess, whether it's garbage, sewage, whatever, everything you can think of is driven to the sea through the rivers. And all of this is sipping inside in the ground, in the ground.
Yes.
To the underground water. We have a major, major environmental problem. And I have been reading a lot, and I have been understanding, again, the process, that environmental degradation has caused civilization degradation or a complete collapse of civilization. And for me, the environmental degradation or the environmental reform is the gateway to a good country. And the environmental degradation is the gateway of a complete collapse of our civilization. When you go to visit quarry sites, and you see the complete demolition or eaten up of a valley, of a mountain, which means you not only killed the mountain or erased it from its existence, you also killed the valley.
Yes.
This means the wind is not going to blow the same way.
Yeah.
The rain is not going to be caught in the underground the same way.
Yeah.
And when you see that a lot of people now are cutting trees from the roots because they want to warm up in the winter, you're depleting the mountains from the trees.
Yeah.
You're depleting our soil from what holds it together. So when the rain comes, it's gonna go down.
Yeah.
We are losing our soil. We are losing our water. We are losing our rivers. We are losing our valleys. We're losing our mountains. The wind, when the wind blows, if there are trees, it gets the sound, it gets broken before it gets to our homes.
Yeah.
The wind is actually, the trees are actually protecting us from severe wind,
Right.
from severe winter.
Yeah.
So by cutting one tree or the trees, you're actually exposing your home to more cold. So all of this to say that we are on the verge of collapsing as a country, as a civilization, and as a nation. And this where the problem is. Because we've got to a point where we have let go our land and our soil and who we are, our identity. And this is, for me, is more dangerous than everything else.
The real tragedy is that it's not natural disaster. It's not that we're cursed with the wrong corner of the globe. On the contrary, this is one of the best slivers of real estate the world over. And then the ungovernability of this country for so long has led to permanent damage. And you're one of those special people that can actually see the problem and understand it. And I mean, this is your career, and I think it probably hurts so much more when you really understand everything that's happening. The way you described the whole ecosystem failing, I see it at a superficial level, but I think you have exactly what it needs to understand it. I just wish that you had the tools to fix it.
I am trying. So I want to thank Madrase Haddad for offering me an office with a trainee and 2 senior lawyers to help me understand the laws and review them, edit them, amend them if needed, or come up with new laws that will protect the environment. That's first. We're also trying to advocate for a better environment. And I want to ask from this platform for help in any way possible, because we really need some funding to be able to form a large office that will stand to actually highlight the problem, expose the people who are working on doing those bad things to our environment, and also follow up with laws and follow up with lawsuits if we need to.
And this is within the MP portfolio, or is this outside of?
No, this is for my work.
For your okay, so I will embed any information that you'd want to share, and yeah, I'd like to drive anyone to this initiative.
Right.
So you just, I'll make sure it's embedded in the episode.
Okay.
How to best do this. It's an issue of funding. Is that
we need funding to operate this office that we're creating.
Yeah.
And thanks to the Haddad Law Office,
I see,
who actually offered expertise now for free. We started the process. He offered his work, he offered his expertise and his team to help me start this initiative.
It'll be easily accessible to anyone watching or listening to the episode. I'll emphasize it.
So this is, and I want to end on a beautiful note.
Please.
So
thanks to editing, a lot of the sadness will be delicately removed.
So this is the goodness of people that I love in Lebanon. Everybody came to help. You know, this person offered me his knowledge, his expertise, you know, and his office.
Yeah.
This is why Lebanon is Lebanon. This is the Lebanon I love. A lot of people are offering help.
Pre-elections, without civil society, this country would be unrecognizable. So the goodness of volunteers or friends or whoever, just average people that want to help, this is the only reason that we still have a country called Lebanon. There's no government that is helping anyone.
And I think when we talked before election, I told you I believe in the goodness of people.
Yes.
And this is what's going to get us win.
Yeah.
And this time I tell you, the goodness of the Lebanese people, without any logic, are going to help us as the 13 and me to drive the environmental cause, and the 13 to help, you know, protect Lebanon that we love.
I've heard it said in several different ways that the 13 are sometimes rightfully in need of, whether it's teams or advisors or assistants, technical assistance. And I'm glad to hear someone actually saying exactly what is needed. It sounds like all the work is done. It's just that because things are so crippling right now, there is need for help. And that usually comes from Lebanese abroad.
Yes.
That have the means to help. That's how I live off of doing this podcast. And this is how I think a lot of us are dependent. It's Lebanese abroad that are helping this country.
Yeah.
And they're part of the story. Najat, thank you for sharing an evening with me. I wish you all the best. And I'm glad that you're patient enough to let me challenge a bit, but you're also robust and you find the right words always, I think, to bring me back to my senses.
Thank you, Ronnie. It was a nice, beautiful evening.
Thank you, Najat.